they were the pride of American highways. Powerful, bold, unstoppable. Jeep, Ram, and Dodge didn't just build vehicles, they built legacies. But today, those legacies are crumbling, and the world is left wondering, how did it all fall apart? This isn't just another story of corporate greed or bad management. This is a full-scale unraveling of what was once a symbol of American grit. When Stellantis took over Chrysler, it promised innovation and stability. Instead, it became a saga of layoffs, failed strategies, and an exodus of once loyal customers. And at the heart of it all, Carlos Tavares, the man who went from visionary to villain in record time. How did Stellantis destroy the iconic brands it vowed to protect? Why did Carlos Tavares' ruthless decisions backfire so spectacularly? And most importantly, can these American legends ever make a comeback? The Stellantis Gamble, chasing short-term gains. When profits take precedence over legacy, the fallout is inevitable. After Stellantis took shape, CEO Carlos Tavares pursued a bold yet risky strategy: cut costs, increase prices, and maximize short-term profits. This approach might have looked good on financial reports, but it came at a heavy cost. The company began by hiking vehicle prices significantly, banking on brand loyalty to keep sales steady. However, as prices rose, so did consumer frustration, especially as quality seemed to decline. Factories that had once thrived were now facing shutdowns, leaving thousands of American workers without jobs. Layoffs spread through Jeep and Ram manufacturing hubs, and the communities built around these plants found themselves economically devastated. For many, it wasn't just about losing a paycheck. It was about losing a way of life that had defined entire towns. Tavares, intent on cutting overheads, underestimated the damage this would cause to Chrysler's reputation. Dealers, already struggling with increased prices, watched as inventory piled up. Unsold vehicles collected dust on lots, and promotional offers did little to entice customers wary of both the cost and reliability issues. The biggest problem wasn't just the layoffs or the price hikes. It was the perception that the company cared more about financial metrics than about the workers who had built Chrysler's legacy. Loyal customers, particularly those who had grown up around Jeep and Ram, felt betrayed. The brand was becoming synonymous with corporate greed rather than American pride. Dealers, stuck between corporate pricing strategies and consumer dissatisfaction, reported record low sales. The public backlash was intense. Workers protested the plant closures, while loyal customers took to social media to express their disappointment. It became clear that Stellantis' strategy was alienating the very people who had kept Chrysler alive for decades. Stellantis was not just losing customers, it was eroding the very foundation of its business, and its problems were just beginning. The fall of Carlos Tavares. When a CEO's ambition blinds him to reality, the entire company suffers. Carlos Tavares was once hailed as the visionary leader who could modernize Stellantis, steering the company through a rapidly changing automotive landscape. His aggressive strategies to cut costs and boost short-term profits initially impressed both the board and investors. With a sharp focus on profit margins, he increased vehicle prices, reduced workforce numbers, and consolidated production. In the beginning, these moves appeared successful. Profits rose and the company seemed more competitive. However, beneath the surface, the cracks were already forming. Tavares' fixation on squeezing the maximum profit out of every sale alienated core stakeholders. Employees felt disregarded as mass layoffs tore through manufacturing hubs. Dealerships, caught between high prices and dwindling consumer interest, found themselves burdened with unsold inventory. Even loyal customers, who had stuck with Jeep and Ram through thick and thin, felt betrayed by declining quality and soaring prices. Tavares' most critical mistake, however, was his unwillingness to listen to warnings. As dealers reported growing frustration and workers voiced their fears, Tavares doubled down on his strategy, dismissing criticism as resistance to change. His confidence turned into arrogance, and his ambition blinded him to the reality of the growing crisis. The tipping point came when sales numbers from the North American market collapsed, wiping out the short-term gains that had once justified his aggressive policies. The board of directors, previously supportive of Tavares' profit-driven model, began to see the long-term damage. Internal meetings turned heated as board members questioned whether Tavares was leading Stellantis into an irreversible decline. Investors, once optimistic, grew increasingly wary. Share prices fell as the company's image suffered, and pressure mounted for the CEO to change course or leave. In an unexpected move, Carlos Tavares resigned abruptly, citing creative differences with the board. The announcement shocked the industry, and news outlets quickly framed it as the inevitable consequence of his contentious leadership. Employees were left in limbo, unsure if the next leader would reverse Tavares' harsh, cost-cutting measures or double down on them. Dealerships, caught in the crossfire, felt abandoned. The man who once led the charge to modernize it became the scapegoat for its decline, and finding a suitable successor proved just as challenging. We dug deep to uncover the truth behind Stellantis' downfall, and trust us, it wasn't easy. If you're appreciating the inside scoop, show some love. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more revealing stories. The interim leadership struggle. With Carlos Tavares gone, the company found itself without a clear leader. John Elkann, the company's chairman, stepped in as part of an interim leadership council, but the absence of a dedicated CEO created a vacuum at the top. As the council deliberated on the future, internal conflicts flared up. Should Stellantis continue Tavares' profit-driven approach or pivot to a more consumer-centric strategy? The council itself was divided, and this division leaked into the public sphere. Dealers, still reeling from the fallout of Tavares' policies, demanded answers. They wanted reassurance that it would support them through the inventory glut and address pricing issues. Instead, they received vague statements that only fueled their frustration. Some dealerships even considered severing ties with Stellantis altogether, seeking more predictable partnerships with rival automakers like Ford and General Motors. The media seized on the chaos, branding the company a rudderless ship. Headlines questioned whether the company could survive without decisive leadership. As stories about internal conflicts surfaced, public perception grew increasingly negative. Customers who had already lost faith in the brand found new reasons to doubt Stellantis' future. The automotive world watched as the interim council fumbled, each decision seeming more reactionary than strategic. Investors grew jittery, leading to another dip in Stellantis' stock value. The lack of a clear vision made it difficult for anyone, employees, dealers, or customers, to feel confident about the company's future. But as the leadership turmoil continued, it faced a more immediate crisis: the Dealers Revolt. Dealers on the brink. When the backbone of your distribution turns against you, survival becomes uncertain. Dealers were once the backbone of Stellantis' success, serving as the primary touchpoint between the brand and its customers. But with unsold vehicles clogging lots and consumer interest plummeting, these dealerships found themselves in a dire situation. Car lots that were once bustling with buyers now stood deserted, their expansive inventories turning into financial liabilities. Frustrated and desperate, dealership owners began to speak out. They demanded that Stellantis cut vehicle prices to move stock, but the interim council hesitated, fearing that price reductions would further damage profit margins. As the standoff continued, some dealers took matters into their own hands, offering unauthorized discounts just to keep cash flow steady. Meanwhile, rival automakers saw an opportunity to poach frustrated its dealers. Ford and GM, sensing vulnerability, offered incentives for dealerships willing to switch allegiances. Some dealers, feeling betrayed by the company's lack of support, seriously considered jumping ship. Customers, too, were losing patience. Those who had purchased Jeeps or Rams at inflated prices were angry to see discounts suddenly appear. Social media buzzed with complaints about unfair pricing and poor reliability, fueling calls for a consumer boycott. Online groups dedicated to disgruntled Stellantis owners sprang up, amplifying the negative sentiment. The revolt wasn't limited to dealers. Customers themselves started fighting back. The Consumer Revolt. Stellantis enjoyed fierce brand loyalty, particularly from Jeep and Ram enthusiasts. These customers saw their vehicles as symbols of freedom, ruggedness, and American pride. But that sentiment had begun to crumble as quality issues mounted and prices skyrocketed. Forums and online communities that once celebrated Jeep and Ram now became echo chambers of discontent. Stories of breakdowns, faulty electronics, and poor customer service spread rapidly. Buyers who had once been proud to own a Jeep now felt embarrassed by mechanical failures and expensive repairs. The backlash wasn't just vocal, it was organized. Consumer watchdog groups started investigating quality complaints, and legal firms considered class action lawsuits against Stellantis for misleading marketing and defective products. Fleet buyers and rental companies began re-evaluating contracts, worried about the reliability risks tied to its vehicles. In response, some dealerships attempted damage control by slashing prices, but this only deepened the brand's image problem. Customers who had paid full price felt cheated, while new buyers remained skeptical despite discounts. Once trust breaks, even lower prices struggle to bring people back. Losing customers doesn't just impact sales, it shatters a brand's identity. Damage control. After the abrupt resignation of Carlos Tavares, Stellantis found itself in turmoil. The company, once bolstered by his ambitious profit-driven strategy, was now rudderless, with its most loyal customers questioning their faith in the brand. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, interim leadership, led by John Elkann, took immediate steps to stabilize the company. The first priority was leadership stabilization. Elkann, who had previously been seen as a passive figure, now stepped forward, publicly committing to restoring its reputation. A series of internal communications were initiated to reassure employees and dealers that, despite the recent upheaval, Stellantis remained committed to its core brands and would address past mistakes. Elkann emphasized that while Tavares' vision had brought short-term gains, it was time to focus on rebuilding relationships and long-term stability. One of the most critical moves was launching a public apology campaign. Stellantis had to confront the widespread perception that it had lost touch with its customer base. Acknowledging the issues of overpricing and quality decline, the company's new communication strategy aimed to show humility and commitment to change. Social media was flooded with statements from company executives admitting past errors and outlining plans to improve product quality and customer support. Town hall meetings were held across key states where it had a strong presence, giving customers a chance to voice their grievances directly. Simultaneously, Stellantis sought to revamp dealer relationships. Dealers had been some of the most vocal critics during Tavares' tenure, citing high vehicle prices and stagnant inventory as major issues. To address this, the company introduced temporary rebates and buybacks for unsold stock, alleviating some financial pressure from dealers. Furthermore, Stellantis worked closely with dealership associations to devise more flexible sales targets, recognizing that the previous targets had been unrealistic given the market conditions. Financial adjustments were also deemed necessary to restore credibility. Stellantis announced that executive bonuses would be cut significantly, demonstrating that the leadership was willing to share the burden of past mistakes. At the same time, supply chain restructuring was initiated to streamline production and reduce costs. This involved relocating some manufacturing back to the U.S. to maintain quality control, a clear message to consumers that the company was serious about addressing their concerns. Despite these efforts, the road to recovery was steep. While the apology campaign and dealer incentives slowed the backlash, the real challenge remained: regaining consumer trust. The damage control strategy may have stopped the bleeding, but it was clear that Stellantis needed more than quick fixes. The damage control strategy may have slowed the bleeding, but the real challenge was regaining trust. The attempted turnaround. Focus on Jeep and RAM. Realizing that the heart of its problem lay in its core brands, Stellantis made the strategic decision to refocus on Jeep and Ram. These brands, once synonymous with rugged durability and American pride, had lost their identity under Tavares' leadership. To win back customers, Stellantis knew it had to reinforce what made these vehicles special in the first place. The first step was brand reinvention. For Jeep, the message was clear: return to the rugged off-road roots that had built its reputation. New marketing campaigns emphasized the brand's legacy, featuring stories of adventurers who relied on their Jeeps to navigate treacherous terrains. The tagline, "Built for the Bold," became a rallying cry, reminding consumers of Jeep's adventurous spirit. For Ram, the focus shifted back to being the workhorse of the American workforce. Campaigns highlighted real-life contractors and farmers who trusted their Ram trucks through harsh conditions and demanding workloads. The slogan, "Driven by Grit," was introduced, reinforcing the notion that Ram was built to withstand anything life threw at it. However, branding alone was not enough. The company recognized that quality had to improve if it wanted to maintain credibility. The company allocated funds to enhance quality control in U.S. manufacturing plants, with a special task force dedicated to inspecting every vehicle before shipment. The goal was simple: make sure that every Jeep and Ram rolling off the assembly line met rigorous standards of durability and performance. Marketing also took on a more relatable tone. Instead of flashy commercials, Stellantis produced content featuring real owners, sharing their stories of how their vehicles had saved the day, whether by towing heavy loads or braving snowstorms. This authentic approach resonated with longtime fans who felt disconnected from the brand during the Tavares era. Despite the renewed focus, some analysts remained skeptical. Could Stellantis genuinely recapture its former glory, or were these just empty promises dressed up in nostalgic rhetoric? Only time would tell if the company's pivot would yield results. And as Stellantis doubled down on tradition, new economic realities demanded innovation. The Globalization Gamble. While the company was attempting to reclaim its American identity, its global strategy was becoming increasingly problematic. The company had invested heavily in expanding production facilities in Brazil, India, and Europe. The logic was clear: reduce manufacturing costs and cater to growing international markets. However, this approach backfired in its core market, the United States. American customers, particularly those loyal to Jeep and Ram, viewed the globalization strategy as a betrayal. They saw Stellantis' decision to produce abroad as prioritizing profits over patriotism. Moreover, the introduction of compact, fuel-efficient vehicles from overseas clashed with American preferences for larger, rugged SUVs and trucks. This disconnect between corporate strategy and consumer expectations fueled resentment. Critics argued that Stellantis' global ambitions had diluted the American essence of its most iconic brands. Customers who once proudly drove Jeeps now hesitated, unsure whether the brand still embodied the same spirit. Meanwhile, Tavares' profit-driven philosophy, which involved maintaining high prices despite declining quality, proved unsustainable. As more Jeep and Ram owners voiced dissatisfaction, analysts warned that Stellantis was risking long-term brand damage. In its pursuit of globalization, it had alienated the very people who had kept its brands alive for decades. Globalization promised profitability, but it came at the cost of alienating Stellantis' most loyal customers. The rise of competitors. As Stellantis faltered, competitors wasted no time capitalizing on the situation. Ford and GM, longtime rivals, launched targeted campaigns aimed directly at disgruntled Stellantis customers. Ford positioned itself as the reliable American choice, emphasizing that its trucks were built in the United States. Special financing offers and loyalty rebates sweetened the deal, enticing Ram owners to make the switch. General Motors also saw an opportunity. Chevrolet and GMC trucks were marketed as durable and dependable, everything that Stellantis offerings seemed to lack. GM dealerships highlighted customer satisfaction ratings, contrasting sharply with the negative reviews plaguing Jeep and Ram. Toyota, too, joined the fray. The automaker marketed the rugged reliability of the Toyota Tacoma and 4Runner, appealing to Jeep owners frustrated with quality issues. Emphasizing Japanese craftsmanship and longevity, Toyota positioned itself as a solid alternative to Stellantis' faltering lineup. Stellantis didn't just face a crisis from within, its competitors were rallying to steal its market share, and the company needed a new strategy, or risk being left behind. Rebuilding the American identity, Stellantis knew that regaining its former glory would not be easy. The damage inflicted by the aggressive cost-cutting and profit-driven strategies under Carlos Tavares had left a mark too deep to ignore. The company realized that to recover, it needed more than just new leadership. It needed a new vision. At the heart of this transformation was a commitment to rebuilding its American identity. After years of manufacturing shifts overseas, Stellantis announced plans to reopen closed factories and invest billions into reviving U.S. production. This move was more than symbolic. It was an acknowledgement that American car buyers valued homegrown brands. By bringing back production jobs to communities hit hardest by layoffs, Stellantis aimed to demonstrate that it could once again be the company that supported American workers and their families. To reinforce this commitment, the company launched a series of local engagement initiatives. In towns where factories had been shuttered, the company sponsored community events, job fairs, and even partnered with local schools to offer vocational training. By collaborating with union leaders and offering improved worker benefits, Stellantis aimed to repair the fractured relationship with its workforce. But simply reopening factories was not enough to restore brand loyalty. To reconnect with its customer base, Stellantis launched the American-Made, American-Proud campaign. This initiative offered special trade-in deals for former customers who had switched to rival brands. Loyalty incentives, including extended service packages and lifetime warranties on select models, were introduced to entice buyers back into Jeep and Ram showrooms. Stellantis also worked on rejuvenating its product lineup. New models emphasized rugged durability, harking back to the Jeep and Ram vehicles that had once dominated rural and suburban markets. Advertising campaigns highlighted the craftsmanship and reliability of these new models, reinforcing the message that it was listening to its customers and delivering on its promises. However, Stellantis knew that slogans alone would not erase years of distrust. The company's leadership was clear. Actions, not words, would determine whether Stellantis could once again become a respected name in the American auto industry. Stellantis knew that reviving American trust would take more than slogans. It would take action. But while Stellantis focused on home, global shifts threatened to reshape the entire industry. Navigating the EV transition. As Stellantis worked to rebuild its image in America, it faced another daunting challenge: the transition to electric vehicles. The automotive landscape was changing rapidly, and Stellantis risked being seen as an outdated relic if it did not adapt. Under new leadership, the company committed to investing billions in EV research and manufacturing. It was an ambitious plan, but one fraught with challenges. Stellantis announced that it would build state-of-the-art EV production facilities, both in the United States and Europe. The goal was to develop electric versions of Jeep and Ram vehicles that preserve their rugged appeal while embracing zero-emission technology. The company made bold claims about the performance of these future models, promising that they would maintain the power and durability that customers expected. However, Stellantis faced stiff competition from industry leaders like Tesla and Rivian, whose advanced EV models already dominated the market. Tesla's sleek designs and cutting-edge technology made it the go-to choice for electric vehicles, while Rivian's rugged electric trucks appealed directly to the demographic the company was targeting. Convincing consumers to choose an electric Jeep or Ram over these established alternatives would be a major hurdle. To address consumer concerns, Stellantis focused on practical aspects such as charging infrastructure. The company partnered with energy providers to develop a network of fast chargers across rural and suburban areas, targeting regions where electric vehicle adoption remained low. In addition, it formed joint ventures to produce more efficient batteries, aiming to improve range and reduce charging time. Public reception to Stellantis' EV push was mixed. While younger, tech-savvy buyers appreciated the company's commitment to sustainability, longtime Jeep and Ram owners remained skeptical. They worried that electric versions of their favorite models would lose the ruggedness and reliability that had made them so beloved. The company launched a social media campaign to address these concerns, featuring testimonials from engineers and early adopters who praised the new model's durability and performance. Still, many wondered whether Stellantis was genuinely committed to innovation or merely reacting to market pressures. Stellantis' electric dreams looked promising, but would the market accept this new vision? As the electric era dawned, Stellantis faced one final battle, reclaiming its legacy. The last stand, rural America's response. Stellantis' efforts to rebuild its reputation faced the ultimate test in rural America, where Jeep and Ram had long been symbols of independence and hard work. The backlash that followed the previous leadership's decisions had hit rural communities hardest. To win back their loyalty, it knew it needed more than just flashy new models. It needed to show genuine commitment. The company introduced rural loyalty programs designed specifically for farmers and small-town businesses. These programs offered special financing options and discounts for agricultural workers who relied on rugged vehicles for their livelihoods. Ram trucks, known for their durability, became the focus of marketing campaigns that highlighted their capability in harsh working conditions. Stellantis also engaged directly with rural communities through town hall meetings. Executives traveled to key markets to listen to farmers and small business owners, acknowledging past mistakes and outlining the company's new vision. These face-to-face interactions helped rebuild some of the trust that had been lost, but skepticism lingered. The biggest challenge remained proving that Jeep and Ram could still deliver the quality that rural customers expected. To address this, Stellantis offered extended warranties and service guarantees on new models. The company also pledged to increase local manufacturing, ensuring that trucks and SUVs were once again built on American soil. Yet not everyone was convinced. Some rural buyers, disillusioned by past experiences, turned to Ford or GM for their next purchase. Others felt that the introduction of electric trucks represented a betrayal of the rugged, no-nonsense ethos that made Ram trucks famous. Winning back rural America meant more than just selling trucks. It meant rebuilding relationships. And as Stellantis faced its hardest challenge yet, the world watched to see if it could truly rise from the ashes. Redemption or ruin? While some saw the company's renewed commitment to American manufacturing and innovative electric models as a positive step forward, others remained unconvinced. Rural buyers who had once been fiercely loyal to Jeep and Ram still harbored doubts about the brand's future. Economic indicators suggested modest improvement. Sales of the newly rebranded Jeep and Ram models showed a gradual uptick, and the company's financial outlook stabilized. Yet, the damage from years of mismanagement could not be undone overnight. Analysts warned that Stellantis needed consistent quality and improved customer relations to secure long-term success. Stellantis' fate hung in the balance, caught between a legacy of missteps and a future defined by innovation. Whether it could once again become a symbol of American strength remained to be seen. As Stellantis fought to reclaim its identity, the auto industry itself began to change, forcing even the strongest brands to question their future. In the end, Stellantis' fate didn't just hinge on cars and trucks. It was about whether a brand once seen as iconic could truly evolve, or whether its golden years were forever in the past. Stellantis' story is a cautionary tale, a giant brought to its knees by ambition and short-sighted leadership. As the automotive world shifts, will the company find redemption, or is it too late to reclaim its legacy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep dives like this one, hit subscribe and join us on the road to uncovering the truth.